Happy Sunday, everybody. On tonight's episode of The Crown After Show, we'll be diving deep into Prince Philip's mommy issues and the royal family films a documentary. Don't touch that dial.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hello and welcome to The Crown After Show right here on AfterBuzz TV. I'm your host, Sahai Wilson, and tonight we will be discussing episode 4, Bubbikins. We also have our special segment, The Tweets Are Talking, some news and gossip, and we will be in the live chat, so don't forget to hit us up with your comments on tonight's episode. But first, breaking down the show with me tonight is my special co-host, Tehran.
Hi, Bubbikins.
Hi.
I'm going to have a nickname for you. You know what I'm saying?
I like
hey,
that.
Boochie Gucci. Yeah, I'm just going to have a royal nickname for you.
I like that.
Do you? Are you a nickname person?
No one has ever thought of a nickname for me that really sticks. People call me like T, but nothing more specific than that.
No one just calls you Hi?
No, I don't like that.
Hi.
No,
Hi.
Let's not start there.
Hi.
Let's not start there.
I think we're going Hi.
No, Bubbikins is better.
Hi. Let me know in the comments below if you like Sahai's nickname to be Hi.
No.
Hi.
As you can see, Tehran is our resident. He's our comedian. He's an entertainer extraordinaire.
He's also brilliant. Let's be very honest.
I will give you that. And he's my resident historian. Whatever you tell me, I believe it.
I just, you don't even want to know the facts that I have for this episode.
Lord. Okay, well,
Did you know Queen Elizabeth was a stripper?
Okay, that was last week with the coins. No.
Just letting you know. Breaking it down.
Again, my name is Sahai Wilson. I'm a producer. I produce social media, podcasts, and television. So I'm also just a lover of all things royal and excited about this show. But first, let's get into our overall thoughts on tonight's episode. How about you? What do you think?
This was a very good episode. Anytime we get Philip and his mother and getting the truth. Now, they took a lot of liberties with the truth, and we'll get into that as we break it down. However, the concept of seeing Princess Alice, and she's such an enigmatic character.
Yeah.
It's always good to see her, and we get the new princess for the first time.
Yes, we do.
So that was nice.
Yes.
Finally we get a new character, someone who is off the beaten path, and we're getting a little bit of that. It's honestly, I'll tell you one thing about The Crown that is I appreciate so much is I feel, even though it's taking liberties, I feel as I'm learning as we go along.
Well, I appreciate you saying that.
It's nice to add color commentary to history.
Exactly. I appreciate you saying that because, again, I'm not a historian, so I'm watching the show and learning from that as well. And I
hope you didn't learn so much from this episode because it was historically extremely inaccurate.
Of course. But from this episode, I did appreciate it. It actually made me really emotional, and I ended up calling my mom after watching it, that last scene. So we'll talk about
That's
that more.
so weird. I called your mom too.
Did you?
Very awkward,
She's great. Don't you love her?
She's wonderful. I love her. She says, "Tell hi." I said hi.
No,
it was
she
great.
doesn't.
Yes, she did. She said that.
Well, first, let's talk about the documentary.
Yes.
So what sparked this is Philip is in the United States, and he's on this tour, and he does this interview where they ask him,
Meet the Press.
Meet the Press.
So that's actually a very famous show. Meet the Press.
Yes.
Breaks it down, especially being from D.C. Meet the Press was like the show that took over Sundays. It was Meet the Press. That was like a thing. So he does Meet the Press, and it goes hazardly, for lack of a better term.
Well, when they asked him, how come you're not king? I was like, ouch. Like, to start off with that must have kind of touched a
No, it touched a nerve because of the difference between American political landscape and the British political landscape. Here they're steeped in tradition and custom and ritual. And here in America, our tradition, custom, and ritual is to mock, is to be sarcastic, is to poke fun. Look at how we've treated historically all of our presidents.
Right.
I know it seems like right now is the most, or this president is giving us the most reason.
But it's
However,
not the first time.
Historically we've done this consistently. We are not afraid of our leaders. It's as close to a country in which the government is not, the people aren't afraid of its government. The government is afraid of its people. Sure, that's not clearly the case. However, we have when it comes to quote unquote shame, we don't have that. And that is just that would be my first question.
But at the same time, remember, this was something that he struggled with.
Let him struggle.
So the fact that they're bringing back up old wounds that he's kind of already worked through, I was like, don't go back to the past. That was a sore subject at one time, but he handled it well. It was just very interesting, as you said, seeing the difference between an American audience and the prince. It shows you that he's always, no matter how humble he tries to be or how he thinks he's just like everyone else, which was a reoccurring theme, he is not,
Very
and
much
neither
so.
is the royal family. They're
Yeah.
not like everyone else.
They're not like everyone else.
Yeah. And so they decide to, in order, because this interview that he does ends up sparking a writer to write an article criticizing the royal family, he decides, hey, let's do a documentary. Similar, it made me think of the Kardashians.
No, it's a reality show. It's by far a reality show. And it's a reality show that, by the way, Queen Elizabeth herself has ordained to be banned,
Yes.
which is why you cannot find it anywhere. This royal family documentary, which was too in-depth, told too many secrets, broke too many, especially at the time where reality shows were not common at all.
Right.
We did not have an insight. They were trying to do, and you brought it up perfectly, High, where you said that we had a Prince Philip, this theme of trying to be normal when they're anything but.
Exactly. And that's actually why I love the royal family, because they're not like everyone else. And it gives me a glimpse into a lifestyle that's totally different from my day-to-day and many of yours as well. So this documentary that they begin filming, I love seeing how passionate Philip was about this. He really got into it. He was involved with it seemed like, as a producer myself, I was like, okay, it seemed like he was involved with the script. He was involved with the shot list. He was involved with, what scenes they would go in what order. And he was involved basically with the storytelling that he wanted to have the audience view. Like that scene where the family was sitting down watching TV. I'm sure in his head, he was like, okay, we're just going to put them in this room and this is going to be a good idea. But in reality, that scene where they were like, why are we doing this? It was just so funny because they were just like not into it. And he was.
I not to skip over the Meet the Press interview and the concept of why the royal family came to be. If you remember, I've been bringing up the concept of why do we need the royal family?
Right.
And that's what this show was supposed to display, show we're just like everyone, we're good people, we're this, and it did anything but that.
Right.
The concept of Prince Philip basically saying that the Queen hadn't received a raise in 10 years. And especially we're on the brink of an economic
crisis, I guess.
Basically, I don't want to use the term crisis. We're getting there.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. We're on the brink of crisis.
We're on the brink of some type of crisis. Yeah. The industrialization. America emerges as this world power. England is Britain is getting demoted in a way.
Right.
Finding its own, the Labour Party is in power, which in effect is hints of socialism. I mean, just so much going on.
Right.
For Philip to say, hey, we need more money.
He says, we deserve to be paid properly. You deserve to be paid properly. And I appreciated him standing up for his woman. But I was like, is he only thinking about himself as well? Because I'm like, you seem to have plenty. You're not eating at night.
I don't know if the people thought of it the same way. I don't know if he's standing up or just, what are we doing here?
They said that the Queen costs England $2.5 million a year, and so let me make sure I have that correct. The royal family costs more than 4 times than that. I think it was the numbers I wrote down. Excuse me, my notes are I was typing quickly, but she said it says no. I'm sorry. Margaret cost $30,000. Oh no, Prince Margaret's trip cost $30,000, and she actually only did 2 days of real work. So just showing how the costs are adding up. And then, Philip felt like, hey, we should be able to defend ourselves. And I get it. He wanted to stand up for his family because he's on the inside. It looks different for him, but that's not what ended up happening. So this documentary airs, and then, again, it garners a negative response from everyone.
So there's this concept of this thing called the Duchy of Lancaster. This is this purse where the income is, that's where the Queen's income is drawn from. And she has this portfolio, it's land, property, assets, all of those things. And now, basically in 2018, the Privy Purse received nearly 20 million pounds.
Wow.
a year, right? So that's $26 million, give or take, from the Duchy of Lancaster. So that's what they cost now. Plus, remember, it's not like they're broke. Look, they have a lot of money.
Yes.
Okay, they're the royal family. They don't have as much money as you would think, though. You would think that they would be, Warren Buffett numbers, but they're not. They're not.
We also, I'm in the chat, and Miss Felicia says Miss Wilson's nickname should be Cece.
Cece, do you love me? I think we got a new name.
And then Dorothy Banks says, I think the family learned from this early documentary what to not do for the later documentaries in the last 20 years. Felicia also says, Philip claims he wants to show he and his family are like everyone else, but he doesn't really want to be like everyone else. Prince Philip comes across as quite snobby and elitist. Do you think, Felicia, do you think it's just because he has that British accent, like automatically he comes off elitist?
It's his whole demeanor.
Yeah.
He knows nothing. See, this is the interesting point when it comes to the concepts of privilege. We see this whenever we talk about white privilege, male privilege, American privilege. There are times where privilege comes to play, where people are just raised a certain way or they're bred a certain way, and therefore they expect certain things. So we see that with white privilege. We often talk about that, obviously, in this woke society in which we live, but we forget to mention things like male privilege, in which males often, as I'm probably doing now, mansplain situations.
All the
and
time.
Then furthermore, we see that in American privilege when Americans go other places and expect everyone to speak quote unquote English, even though that's not really what we speak, right? So we see these things, or we assume American way of life is a certain way. Well, when it comes to Philip, his breeding, his upbringing, his elitist background, his academia, he just has this idea and notion of the world that's not actually the way the average person lives. That's not the commoner. It's a bit out of touch, and it comes off often when he has conversations with the average man. We see this constantly historically through royal society, to the culmination of Marie Antoinette and let them eat cake, which she probably didn't mean for it to come off mocking. It was probably the only bread that she knew.
Right.
And that's what the concept is when you get this breeding, where you get this elitist mindset, it is a form of privilege, and you know nothing else. Now we see that with Harold Wilson. He's able to be a commoner. Right. Even though
he's pretending.
He's pretending, but he at least understands it.
Yeah.
He understands it. He comes from a background in which is a lot more common.
And he tells Elizabeth, he was like, television is good for normal people, but you're not normal. And it was so cute the way she was like, yes, I am. I go to sleep, I wake up, I eat just like everyone else. Because you have to remember, Philip grew up, rough, as he reminded us. He didn't have an easy childhood. And Elizabeth, prior to becoming queen, she thought she was going to have a normal life, as we end up seeing in our next episode, which you can catch us reviewing at 10 p.m. tonight.
So the concept of Philip growing up rough, let's not act like he grew up poor.
No,
who grew up rough? A little Ubuntu in Zimbabwe. He's growing up rough. This is Philip's form of growing up.
Yes.
Not as him as we would assume, since he is a prince. That is it.
Right. So again, as Tehran said, the documentary doesn't go well, but out of it comes another article. And just to wrap up our discussion about the documentary, they end up, the Queen Elizabeth says, no, I never want this shown again, because the U.S. wanted it, Canada wanted it,
everyone
Australia wanted it, the BBC wanted to show it again, and she was like, no.
Of course. This show broke records. It had like 30 million viewers at that time in 1969 when it aired, and then the Queen Elizabeth in 1972 was like vetoed it. It is never to be shown again.
Let me tell you something. When I first heard about this, I was like, if there's any way I could watch that,
100%.
I would watch that right now. So if anybody got the YouTube link,
it doesn't. It literally just doesn't exist.
I know. It's amazing.
It is one of those blackballed, blacklisted, in the vault. Get your hands on it. This is why I wish I had a recording, because that would just be priceless.
That'd be amazing.
Because I'm not in England, I'm selling it everywhere.
So moving on to our girl, Princess Anne has arrived.
Yes.
So one of the themes that we saw in this episode is just technology. Philip was trying to just bring the family into, up to speed with technology, but, putting them onto this documentary aspect, or also having this telecom system and using the power of television. position. So he uses the telecom to call Princess Anne in to tell her, listen, it's your time to shine and we need your help.
Yeah.
So I was excited, like you said, to see this new character. She brought some fresh blood into
So you were a fan. You liked her.
I liked what I saw right now, even though I was skeptical of what she did in the end, like towards the end with her Yaya.
Who does she remind you of?
Her aunt, maybe?
Margaret?
Yeah.
She's got a bit of Margaret tendencies for me.
She does, because she seems like she understands her position, but she doesn't like it, and she would prefer to be doing something else. Plus, she, at this point, is a young woman, so she's like, I don't have time for this. I told you this documentary was going to be bad. You didn't listen, and now here you go. But it was nice seeing Philip with his daughter. You notice we haven't seen a lot of that before. So what did you think of that interaction between them?
And we also have this notion that in some ways Princess Anne is a favorite in a way. It's like the daddy-daughter syndrome.
I think that because like that scene where she says, he's like, oh, you don't always have to be so snide. And she's like, where do you think I get it from?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we see this.
Like father, like daughter.
Exactly. And speaking of parents, we end up also seeing Philip's mom, who I love.
Princess Alice.
So Princess Alice was a nun. She was over in Greece. Last time we saw her, it was when she was being ripped away from Philip as a child.
So these are the liberties that have been taken by the show. So she's wearing this mock, and if you remember at the wedding, Queen Mother was talking kind of trash about Princess Alice.
Right.
She's wearing this mock, but that didn't happen until a little bit later. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, with the Meet the Press and the royal family things, those royal family came out and then Meet the Press, and it was much later in the 60s, 69. So we get a lot of liberties, and of course, the journalist they used, I researched it, and that person didn't exist, because I was like, what articles did this person write?
Right.
The person wasn't a real person. It was a fictional combination of different journalists and stuff. So it's good to know these little things. But Princess Alice of Battenberg, who is, Prince Philip's, Duke of Edinburgh's mother, and the mother-in-law of Queen Elizabeth II, has always been a very fascinating character, just born in England, Berkshire, and so.
Before we move forward, you know what else is interesting?
Oh my gosh, I do.
Our AfterBuzz shows.
Yeah,
Let us know why.
Oh my gosh, because we are the best Crown after show on the planet, and that's not my opinion. That's all of yours. Thank you so much for your likes, subscribes, and shares. Keep sharing the word, spreading the love, sharing it all. We appreciate the comments below. We love reading your comments. Well, most of them, some of you I dislike, but the rest of you I really love. Sometimes, remember, we're watching the episodes and talking about them too, so we appreciate your insight. Stay with us, talk to us, let us know what you think in the comments below. Give us that like button, and if you're listening to us on iTunes, give us that 5 stars we so greatly deserve, and thank you for making us be the ESPN of TV Talk.
Appreciate you, and appreciate all your comments last week on the Aberfan episode. So we have thank you to Carwin Morris, Bill Frost, Katie McDonald, Naima Creets, Ron Simpkins, Hal Crow Johnston, Anik Rusimru, Mariana Xavier, Thumper E23, Diamond Lil, Cornelia Amiri, Charles Francis, and John Evans. Like, you guys light up the comments. You give us historical facts and also have me laughing. So we appreciate it. Even the bad ones. I'm like, okay. Somebody commented, we said the word Celtic incorrectly.
Celtic. Listen, guys, I'm so sorry we're in America. I apologize. Listen, this is how it goes sometimes. Let it be. We're okay. You're okay. But we do appreciate when you tell us things.
Yes.
I just don't like I don't appreciate being chastised about things. Like, you have to understand that we are leading a discussion on a show and not historians. Because a lot of people just think we're giving, like, the show isn't historical. We're not historical. I'm not a professor. Sahai, aka Hi, aka CC is not a professor. We're leading a discussion, and we appreciate you guys talking with us as well.
Yes, we get information from you guys, and we love it. So
especially the people who commented about Aberfan. Wow, since that was such a deep episode,
very much so.
I really appreciated getting these tidbits of true knowledge and insight, and that's something that you'll never find in historical text. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we're super fans. So speaking Speaking of superfans, I have a question. Remember how Philip was a womanizer back in the day?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Do we think his womanizing ways had something to do with his mommy issues?
I think Bubbikins had some mommy issues.
Yeah.
Mommy just wasn't there for him the way he wanted her to be, which means he had such a rough childhood.
Don't make fun of him.
They should be being paid more. You should be being paid more.
Listen, like, I think the fact that he didn't grow up with his mother was a void that he was always trying to fill. And so that's why he constantly looked towards other women to fill that void for him.
Or maybe he was just the prince and trying to get some. Listen, here's the most interesting concept about this, and I will mansplain this for sure. There's a lot of times where, of course, issues come to play. However, toxic masculinity will determine that many times some guys are just pieces of shit.
Right.
And I said that and I mean it. We have to just be aware of it. It's a fine line. Sure, mommy issues comes to play. However, he probably shouldn't have been doing the things he's been doing regardless.
Totally.
Let's get in touch with our feelings, talk about it, be about it. You have what we see as a powerful team member on your team who is a powerful person, but also, honestly, a wonderful wife in many ways.
Very much so.
I mean, she is the queen, and yet she is, at many times, she defers to Philip. She talks to Philip. She includes Philip.
But then she makes her own decisions. Like, she deferred to Philip and asked him, hey, do you want your mother to come? She's in trouble right now. He's like, no, get her away. She heads over to her advisor. She's like, listen, bring her over. She's my mother-in-law. She's the grandmother to my children.
And I appreciate that. And sometimes that's what you need. You don't just need your wife to bend down and be like, yes, sir. You need your wife to keep you in check. That is how that works. And so I actually find Queen Elizabeth, I like the new Philip and Elizabeth team much more than the old team. I liked those characters.
Yeah.
And but at the core of me, the dullness of their marriage, it's not dazzling. I appreciate and respect it.
I think that's what we're seeing. I think when you're young and married, your marriage is one way, and as you get older, you get used to the person. You get, you kind of you grow together and build mutual respect.
That's
hopefully,
like us.
I mean,
like
3
us.
years, 3 seasons in, our marriage is so strong.
I think we should see other people. It's not me. It's
no,
you.
we're never breaking up. We're never breaking up. So let's talk a little bit more about Princess Alice. So okay, I'm gonna say some things like, so here she is. We see her as a nun, like the lead nun at the convent. She's also found, but she was born in Windsor Castle. Her great uncle was the Tsar of Russia. Her grandmother was Queen Victoria, and her son is married to the Queen of England. Like, these were statements made when she attempted to sell that piece of jewelry, and the jeweler didn't believe who she was. And here she is just smoking her cigarettes, living her life in the monastery, and here she's 82 years old. So then after she gets to the palace, her granddaughter, who I loved seeing that relationship too. My grandmother recently moved to Florida, so when I go to New York for Thanksgiving next week, I will not see my grandma, and I am very sad. So to see that bond, that's the part of the show that I like, the relationships between the family.
It's interesting. The Crown actually does what the Royal Family TV show attempted to do.
Right.
It makes you love the Royal Family more, and you have this in-depth insight, at least even one with commentary and flourish and liberties, where you feel a closeness to them because they do come off as real people.
Yeah.
Even if their lives are unreal.
Yeah, and that's what happened with the people of England when they got to read this article where she got to speak about her life, and things that her son didn't.
You mean Princess Alice?
Princess Alice, excuse me. Yes, Princess Alice got to speak to this journalist about her life, the same journalist who was criticizing her family prior, and that part was amazing to me because not only did the people of England learn about this woman, her son learned about her, and she ended up saving them. Here it is, he was trying to hide her away from everyone, thinking that she was going to bring them down, and she was the one that brought them up. Do you think it was her faith that the people identified with, or the struggle and difficult life that she had that the people identified with?
I think it was a combination of who she was as a person and how honestly and sincerely that article was written.
Right.
It did not hide. So what the royal family did was it exposed because they tried to hide.
And they said they were not acting, but they kind of were acting
Exactly.
because they were not being their normal
They weren't.
selves.
And so we could see that. We have a natural ability to see insincerity.
Right.
In this case, the sincerity shone through even words on a paper.
Yeah.
And that's why it was just such a revealing and revelation of the insight. It did what the royal family attempted to do.
Yeah, I mean, so many things. What makes me love the show is when I can connect with something. And I was raised as a single parent, so I'm very close to my mom. And when she said she was battling schizophrenia, I have a younger brother. He has schizophrenia, so I know how that can be difficult on a family and how misunderstood it is even today. You know what I'm saying? Like her family said, that, they just thought she was crazy. Here it was. We find out she was deaf, and they thought she was slow when she said that. She has some humor to her. Like
she does have some humor to her.
Did you remember the scene when she was her Princess Anne pushes her out into that room, and she's just looking up at the ceiling and smoking her cigarette. I thought that was really funny. But it reminded me of.
By the way, a lot of people feel like inbreeding could possibly have led to a couple of these things.
Interesting.
And that's part of the theory of how Princess Diana was the best thing to ever happen to the royal family, because here we get a new injection of genetic material.
Interesting. Yeah. Because right, Elizabeth and Philip are cousins. Yeah. So there's that. So yeah, okay, interesting.
We had that was actually a big problem, especially in the Russian czarship, but even in amongst royals in Europe, so much everyone was someone's cousin somehow.
Crazy.
So
spooky. In the end,
insert Meghan Markle.
Yes,
who keeps getting wider and wider on every cover of People magazine.
I'm sure there's a little Photoshop happening, but oh my gosh, we only have a few more minutes left. So that was wraps up our episode. The Philip and his mom kind of reconcile, and it kind of becomes a new beginning for them. So now that we have a few more minutes, let's get into our special segment, The Tweets Are Talking. So the tweets are talking is when I pull the hashtag for the episode and kind of read some of the things that people have said. The first one says from
Emma Rose.
Emma Ribbons, actually. Emma Rose Ribbons. At Emma Rose Ribbons. Oh, wow, Bubbikins quite killed me. What a masterpiece of an episode. Princess Alice was such a wonderful woman.
Yes, very much so. I agree.
Next one. Morango de Nordeste says, I'm so emotional right now after watching Bubbikins, as was I. Princess Andrew of Greece and Denmark, aka Alice of Battenberg, was such a lovely and misunderstood woman. All she did was good, and she was my favorite member of the royals forever. He even included a photo of her. Look how cute she looks here, and in her nun uniform, adorable. Next tweet. Bubbikins episode 4, season 3 of The Crown is easily one of the best by the creators. Life of a courageous royal Princess Alice who has seen the best and the worst all through her lifetime. A performance so delicate yet powerful, won by actress Jane Laporte. Kudos to the showmakers. Guys, don't come for me. I wasn't sure how to say that, but I tried. And our last one tweet is by Selbridge Prince. Every time I watch another episode of season 3 of The Crown, it elicits an unexpected emotional response. I thought Bubbikins had a beautiful ending. Felt sorry for Prince Charles in episode 6, which we'll get to, but Moondust has been the best so far. Felt oddly fulfilled after that one. So yes, like I said, I bust out crying at the end and had to call my mom. So Hope you guys felt the same way. So for our news and gossip segment, which we'll get into next.
AfterBuzz TV News.
I pulled some behind-the-scenes photos of The Crown. Yes, you'll see the Queen here, Miss Olivia Colman in a BTS photo of her on set in a car. And I always like to see what happens when they're shooting. Then we have another photo of Tobias walking with another cast member up those royal stairs, which is actually not a real palace. It's a set.
A great, amazingly designed set. I hope they get the Emmy nod for set design or whatever that is.
Yes, the caption says, as we take a break to go watch, here's a lovely kickoff for The Crown Season 3 from Samuel West, Tobias' Eternal Law co-star, who plays Anthony Blunt in episode 1. Very cool. Next one. And then we have another photo from set with Tobias getting some notes from director Benjamin Caron. This photo was in the York Times. So you see him in one of those intricate sets with those beautiful table settings that I love so much. Then we also had an article in Harper's Bazaar UK where Tobias speaks about his role as Philip. And he says he feels like Philip is actually misrepresented in the show. He feels like in the show he's misrepresented as like being a hard-nosed father, but he and Charles actually had like a good relationship, and that there was a softness to them. So you guys can check out that article on Harper's Bazaar UK.
That's right. You have to fly to the United Kingdom just to read it.
Yeah, basically.
That's
yeah.
a thing.
What I love is that the British publications actually have like different information than we do.
No way.
Yeah.
That's how media works, unfortunately.
So
the truth is out there.
As we wrap up our show, I just wanted to talk about, the holidays are coming, and we're going to have a lot of uninvited or unexpected guests, just like the royal family did in this episode where they had Philip's mom arrive. And I think it's a good time to just like try to mend those broken relationships like we saw Philip do. He extended it, she came and he accepted her for who she was. She had to accept him for who he is. But those bonds, sometimes you won't get that opportunity again to kind of clear the air. So I kind of
you know what? That's true. I would like to apologize to my brothers and sisters. I love you guys so much.
Thank you, Tehran.
For having to live with me as I was amazing, and you guys were all peasants. I'm sorry. I love you. I love them. I have no family beef.
No?
None.
My family has tons of beef.
We have no family beef. I've always wanted family beef because I hear from other families their beef. My family, no, you do. Because family beef means that when you come home, a parent's not home. And my parents are just always home. They were always home. I wasn't able to do stuff and get away with stuff. They always spoke and communicated. And so, remember the don't tell dad? Of course she's telling dad. There is no telling dad.
I can't.
We're telling each other. Everyone finds out everything. We're having a family discussion. All the family, the whole family. Oh, we're calling aunts and uncles and grandma. Why? Why are we doing this?
I can't with you. We have I'll read a couple more messages from the live chat where Dorothy Banks says Princess Anne was very sneaky in how she made that interview happen.
Yes,
she
that was
really
excellent.
was, and I wonder,
Smart.
like she wasn't worried at all about the repercussions of that. It's like she already knew that this documentary made them look bad, and was she not worried about making them look even worse?
I think that she had her own mindset, very Margaret-esque, very Alice-esque. Remember, there is something between dull and dazzling, and Alice is neither, and Anne is neither.
Well, also the fact that you mentioned that she's his favorite. Here it is, he calls his wife Cabbage, which we learned in the comments it's a term of endearment, but still not so cute. And he calls his daughter Sweetie, to the point where people were confused. They thought it was the queen, and he was actually referencing his daughter. So, that's that love between father and daughter is like no other. But you know what else is like no other? Our Crown After Show. Stay tuned for us recapping episode 5 at 10 p.m. tonight.
There we are.
And then we'll be back on Tuesday with episode 6, 7, and 8 to take you into the holidays. So where can they find you in the meantime?
Find me at I Am Tehran all across the board, IAMTEHRAN, and of course hosting and paneling on a slew of other AfterBuzz after shows, because all of your favorite TV shows are my favorite TV shows too.
And I am Sahai, aka CC, aka Hi, and you can find me at Say Hi Sahai. Thanks again, and we'll see you next episode.
Bye. Cheerio.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.